Welcome to the Arsenal Show. We are live. I'm joined by an all-star panel tonight. It's Steve K, Jerome Marks, and Melvin Marks. How's everyone doing?
Good evening, Kieran. Good evening, everybody out there. Good.
I see Melvin's face light up when I said all-star panel there. All right.
I looked over my shoulder.
No, I'm talking about you. Look at the man in the mirror. It's you, Melvin.
All you got to do is look up, Mel. You'll be all right.
Exactly. Chest out. That's how we do it. There's plenty to discuss tonight. Obviously, the first win of the Premier League campaign against Nottingham Forest. And in true Arsenal style, we were in control, but not quite cruising. Got it over the line, though. 3 points is all that matters right now, but we could have definitely been discussing that. We can't not discuss the injury to Yuri and Timber, ACL injury, which is likely to see him out for the majority of the season. Absolutely heartbreaking for the player. And of course, any transfer news, and especially the link between Saudi Arabia and Gabriel. Yeah, well, not having none of that rubbish, but we will be discussing it as well. First and foremost, Steve, 2-1 victory against Nottingham Forest. Arsenal in the first half looked like it was in cruise control, and in the second, it was very similar to last season, at the start of last season, where it looked like it could all go wrong, and it was more tense than it needed to be. Yeah,
it was it was exactly how I see the game as well. But overall, I didn't think it was too bad. So it was disappointing that we didn't go on and score a couple of goals in the second half. And like you said, we seem to have dropped off. It's very rarely that I think we had 10 shots in the whole game, which is quite poor for us, really, at home. So yeah, but I think if you look at the game, with it being the first game of the season, I was okay with it. I was impressed with quite a few of the performances of the players. The way Declan Rice seems to have settled in. I thought he was fantastic. I thought he played very well. I was very pleased with Havertz. I thought the guys up front did what they did. I think Eddie Nketiah, he just keeps proving everybody wrong, doesn't he? He does score goals, and especially at the Emirates. He seems to love it there, and he scored another one. So yeah, it's funny because beforehand I was cursing him a little bit for not being in the game, and then I think I was just about to curse him in front of a few people I was watching the game with, and then he scored, and then I was sort of like shut up a bit. So I didn't need to curse him because I thought he should have got involved a bit more at the beginning. A bit similar to Martinelli as well, because he was a bit quiet at the beginning, and then he did that trick, and you're like, right, okay. It was handy. You didn't have a go at him a couple of minutes before they did that. But after that, the pair of them just went on, and they was fantastic. As I say, the boys up front just did their stuff. Havertz, I thought was a lot of people were having a go at Havertz. I thought he was excellent. I thought he was brilliant. When you see what he could do, his movement off the ball, the positions he was taking up, some of the layoffs he was doing. I thought he did really well. I was a bit surprised about the way we set up. That confused me a little bit. I felt a bit sorry for Thomas Partey because as far as a midfield player goes, I thought he was really great. I thought he was Thomas Partey when he was on the ball in the midfield and he was winning tackles in the middle. I thought he was great, but he ain't a right-sided back. You can't play him there, and I think that Mikel Arteta got that wrong. I think if he was given that, it's okay if you're playing that. You can play that way, or you could maybe get away with him against the lesser teams. But I think it showed if you play him there against someone who's quite quick or someone who's got a bit of pace, he can get fanned out. But that's unfair to his overall performance because in the midfield, I probably would blame Arteta more for putting him there than rather Partey's failings on what he did, getting caught a couple of times and maybe a little bit of fault for the goal as well. But overall, I thought he did really well. Other than that, yeah, I know why he played. I know why he played that way. It's obviously that when Havertz is in the side, you have to play the inverted fullback. I just don't think they're inverted fullbacks, Thomas Partey. But yeah, in overall, I thought it was decent, mate. I was pleased with it.
Jerome, was you surprised by the starting lineup and especially Gabriel not starting?
Yeah, definitely surprised by Gabriel. I think something silly like he's played the last 70 games in a row for us. So I don't think anyone would have predicted Gabriel not starting. Apart from that, maybe a little bit surprised that Nketiah as well, that he started. I think people might have had Havertz or possibly Trossard down as maybe as the striker. But yeah, the Gabriel one was very strange. But yeah, overall, the most important thing was to get the 3 points. It was sort of too comfortable for us. And I think that's maybe something that we need to work on. Perhaps is not to just let games sort of drag on, like really kill these teams that aren't coming to play, like kill them so they got no chance. Because when it's 2-0 and then they get a goal near the end, I'm sure everyone you panic. You've gone from such a position of control to possibly just coming out of the game with 1 point. So that's a good lesson to take forward.
Melvin, there were changes, but do you think the changes worked? In the first half, it seemed like we had a lot of possession. In the second half, we didn't really make much of it.
I think he played, by not playing Gabriel, we could have just slotted like Kiwar in or something. But he seemed to play 3 players out of position just because he's not playing Gabriel at left centre half.
Yeah.
It's really weird. I mean, let's face it. However good he is, Partey is not a right back or an inverted right back, whatever you want to call him, because he ain't got the speed. If a winger, whatever quality team we play, they don't have to be the greatest team in the world to have a fast winger. If they've got a fast winger and they get past him, he ain't going to catch him, is he? No way. Yeah. He's got to make a foul, and if he's booked already, then he can't even do that. So that's a weird one. And I thought it looked a bit disjointed, the team. Yes, we had lots of possession, but lots of it none of it was in the final third. When we did get the point in the final third, I thought we were pedestrian and we weren't taking any chances. The amount of times we could do a certain through ball, a 50-50, we could do this, and if we get the right ball, it could be a goal or they get possession. We weren't doing it. We just, we play it back again. We play it back again. It was slightly frustrating, but within 7 minutes of each goal, 2 bits of genius within 7 minutes changed all that. But it wasn't because we were we did turn the pressure up just before we scored the first, but it didn't look like we were cutting through them too many times. I mean, their goalie, Turner, didn't have a lot to do before the goal, in all fairness. And in the second half, the same. I think it was disappointing. I don't like players playing not in their natural position, especially we're supposed to have this big squad. We've got 2 players in every position, but we're playing people out of position because we're not playing a left centre half. I found it very frustrating. So I don't agree that we played well. I thought when I came home, I thought to myself, you know what? If I had to give it a point out of 10, I'd give it a 6. That performance.
What was it that you didn't like specifically? 2
things. First of all, in the first half, pedestrian, backward and square. In the second half, no energy.
Okay.
It was like the game was over. It was like a practice game. If we let in a go, it doesn't matter. If we get another one, fine. It wasn't any urgency at all.
Yeah.
And it was quite obvious we needed to change it up with personnel. And he did it, but did it a bit later than I thought he was going to do it, but he did it. And Trossard coming on made all the difference, really. He was outstanding. Talk about a cameo position, a cameo role. He was absolutely fantastic. And I wish the others would show that. I'm sure they're trying, but show that enthusiasm, that energy. And it just didn't seem like it was happening in the second half with a lot of the Arsenal players.
Steve, slightly frustrating that Arsenal aren't being ruthless, or do you think it will come in time?
Oh, it'll come in time. It'll come in time. Oh, right up. I mean, I felt we had control of the game. I never was really felt that Forest were going to win the game. I think Melvin's right. The fact the second half, I think that we dropped off, and we, you know, it was a little bit frustrating that we didn't, you know, go forward and score more goals, like I'd already said. But I haven't got no worries. I mean, as I said, Saka looked great, unbelievable goal. Martinelli, when he got the ball, you know, looked incredibly dangerous. Looked like he could beat their defence whenever. They didn't get the ball enough, which is what Melvin was pointing at. But when they did, you know, you was excited and thought, well, there was something going to happen. I thought Odegaard controlled the game. I thought he was pinging it about, passing it, knocking it around. He wasn't playing through passes or cutting balls like we know he can. But when he got the ball, he was in total control, and the way he was pinging it into left, right was great to see. He was given his usual work like we've come to used to, and I thought Rice was fantastic. I really did. He could have scored a couple of goals. He seems to have controlled the game. I don't remember him doing anything wrong, but I do agree with Melvin about, you know, that there was it felt a little bit disjointed because of the team that he picked to start with. And, you know, before I came on tonight, it was, if there was a major, you know, sort of like something I wanted to sort of pick up on or be picky about, you know, it was unusually going to be for a change, Mikel Arteta, because I think he got it wrong. I don't think it was the players. So I think he'll see that. I don't think, you know, Gabriel wasn't there. Timber went off in the end, you know, that disjointed, that changed it all up a bit. I thought Eddie Nketiah did really well. I think I can't fault Eddie Nketiah. I mean, he wasn't great in the pre-season, but he scores goals. He scores goals, and when Gabriel Jesus is not in that team, he scores goals, and that's what you want from him. I think we get a little bit guilty sometimes of picking faults in him when he has bad games. But he scored like 15 goals in something like 17 home games at the Emirates. Now, come on. And that's not a stat I've just picked up of me. I think that's an actual stat. So, yeah, he's not Jesus and he's not England international, but I think he does a job for Arsenal. But I think Arteta should look at himself and say, I think he got the team wrong. And yeah, I mean, I ain't got no worry. I think we go to Palace and beat them comfortably. Yeah.
All right, I'll quickly go through the comments here. I'll come to the ones related to Timber when we speak about Timber in a second, everyone. Sheepo, good to see you here. Good to see you as well, Russ. Jerome, Kieran Smith says the tempo wasn't good, especially in the first half. Do you agree?
Yeah, the tempo wasn't great. I think it's because they just sat back. Forest. Sometimes it is hard to play against that type of team. Also, I watched it on the TV, and for some reason it looked like, you know, sometimes we play away from home and the grass is a bit long when the ball doesn't run as quick as normal. Val, I don't know if you noticed that. Like the pitch didn't look as slick as it normally does. So that, mate, I know it's a bit of an excuse, but that probably didn't help. But yeah, the sort of tempo and the quick start is something that we experienced, especially at the beginning of last season, the first few games. That was sort of a trademark of ours. So hopefully maybe that'll come with a few more games. We've got to remember, like, it was just the first game. So sometimes these things do take a while to get going. Yeah.
Melvin, we saw last season Arsenal, especially in the first half of the season, there was a lot of 1-0s, 2-0s, and probably us as fans wanted them to be more ruthless. Are you worried that could sort of sneak in again? That they don't have that sort of mentality to just absolutely obliterate teams and keep going for the jugular?
Yes, I do. I mean, go back a few seasons, that Liverpool team, they were horrible. If they went 2 or 3 up, they were just going for the fourth even harder, like it was 0-0. That's the difference. We don't seem to do that. We seem to be, I get the impression, it's obviously wrong, that we're 3-0 up or 2-0 up, we're thinking about the next game. Right, who we got next? let them up to save ourselves a little bit. Let's save it for the next game. Obviously, it may not be true, but that's the impression I get sitting there watching them. No, we're not ruthless enough, and it can come back to bite you. You know, look at Saturday. They scored their first goal, and it would have been an absolute diamond. They had a shot just after that to make it 2-2. Had the guy hit it correctly, a little bit better, it could have been 2-2. Then what do? We've been in a mess. And also, you're sitting there the last 10, 15 minutes of the game, and you're looking at the clock the whole time. You should home to Forest, 2-0 up. You don't think at the end of the game you'd be looking at the last 15 minutes of the clock. And that's what I was doing, and I should imagine a lot of other people were doing. The geezer next to me was going, oh, that's all he was doing the last 20. He was just doing that the whole lot, as nervous as you like. I said, no, we'll be all right. I was telling him we'd be all right, but I weren't convinced. You know, it's Arsenal. We've been there before, haven't we? So we've got to get a 2-3 goal cushion and then just keep pressing the team. Give them no hope. Just let them give up. You want teams to get. We did it last season to a few teams, especially away from home. Yeah. They basically gave up against us. You could tell that. We had some fantastic performances. Was it Bournemouth away? Was it that they just put Brentford? Was it Brentford who never got beat at home?
Yeah,
at their ground, we absolutely destroyed them, and we took the mickey. I think it was wrong to bring on the 16-year-old kid for 2.5 seconds. I mean, I think we've got it in us to do it. I think even more so now with a bigger squad that we can use. So let's do it. Let's just go for it. You know, you can have your rest in a few minutes' time when you get off the pitch. They seem to rest on there. Laurel's a little bit too much for me, but let's hope that changes. It's one game, as you said. It's one game. So let's see how we continue.
Yeah, maybe there's a bit of complacency because at the end of the day, Forest weren't great, were they? It's not like they was you know.
Did you at any point, apart from once they scored, was you worried that they were going to get that equaliser? No. Was you worried that they were going to score?
No.
And I didn't think that they had anything. Yes, there was the Elanga, lovely run from Elanga, but that was it. Apart from the Brennan Johnson shot in the first half.
That's it. Yeah. That was it.
There was no threat.
That was
there
it.
Was no threat.
It was just the cutting edge, wasn't it? And that's all I could put it down to. You know, it was the cutting edge. And they probably thought, 2-0 game in the season, that's all right. We'll just ping it. But we got caught by because of the right back situation. And if we had we was playing a flat back four, that goal wouldn't have happened, and we would have been coming away with a 2-0 win, and and that would have been that. So
perhaps,
go on, mate.
Sorry, Steve. Perhaps when we went 2-0 up, it wouldn't have been a bad idea jobbing backwards to put a back four on then. Why did we play through it back with 2-0 up?
Then people would have complained. People would
complain. Why complain? When the game's 3-0. And also, you know as well as I do, that football is all about momentum. You're 2-0 down, you want to get in the dressing room, you've had enough. You score a goal, you can't wait to kick off again and have a go at the other team. And I think that's where we lack sometimes the momentum. We don't make use out of the momentum we have.
Yeah, I agree. We do need to start just sort of killing these games off. And Steve, do you think it's if we come out this game 3-4-0, Nottingham Forest don't have a chance? Yeah, that sends a message to the other teams as well.
Yeah, it does. It does when they go, whoa. We're all sitting back looking. Some of us might have, not too sure about Newcastle this season, but now we're like, well, hold on a minute. 5-1 against Aston Villa. Now you're thinking a little bit different. Who's ever playing? If you're playing Newcastle, now you're a little bit worried. So, yeah, I think it does send the message. It does send the message out. But we could have come away from that game with a 4-0 win. Rice was unlucky a couple of times. Eddie had a chance. Saka had a chance. If they go in, you can. We're talking 3-4-0, and then it's a different conversation. So and everybody's happy. So the one that hit the post from Rice, great save from Turner. It's a different story. And then we as I say, we're coming away with a 3-4-0 win. So it's very fine. It's very fine lines. And Mikel Arteta's just. I'm sure he knows that I think he actually even said that, the idea is that when you're 2-0 up, you need to go on and score more goals. I think he actually said that in a post-match interview. So, Yeah, it does. It does. He knows. He knows we should have got on. And when he's got to be in the dressing room at the end of the game, he's told them, look, well done. First game, 2-1, should have done better for their goal, but we do need to, firstly put our chances away. And secondly, we need, we're used to having 23 shots at the Emirates and 10's just simply not good enough. So next time I think it'll be totally different.
Yeah, I agree. One really bad bit of news that came out of the game was that Jurriën Timber's out. What is looking like it's going to be between 6 to 8 months, probably, if we're honest. These ACLs are a bit of a season ender. It's bad when a player goes down unchallenged, and Brennan Johnson was just sort of jockeying him, and he just went down, grabbing behind his knee. Jerome, is this a worry? Do you think Arsenal need to potentially go out into the transfer market to replace Jurriën Timber?
I don't know. I really don't know about that, because we are quite well stocked in terms of fullbacks. But what the physios and the manager done on that occasion is one of my pet hates in football. I'm not I've never played football at a high level, like a very high level. I'm not a physio at all. But when one of your players goes down and it's obvious that he's done something quite bad, and he has to go off the pitch for a while, despite all the tests, everything the physio's done on him when he was off the pitch, you could tell that potentially that's a bad injury. And in that situation, the manager needs to override everything the physios say, because the risk reward of that situation was a joke, really. You've got two left backs on the bench, or two players that can play left back on the bench. You're 2-0 up against the team that had, I think, the worst away record last season. Just make the sub, get him off the pitch, because when that tackle happened, you could tell it was a bad one. So for me, it's a big mistake from the physios and the manager not to take him off. I don't know how many times I've seen it. You can tell when a player goes down, he's not right. Get him off. But the managers and physios, they do a couple of tests. There's obviously lots of adrenaline running through the body that you can't take into account. And big mistake. And he could well be out for the season now. I just don't understand it myself.
Yeah. Melvin, do you agree there that Arsenal should have taken it in their own hands and stopped Jurriën Timber from coming out? I know the player's obviously going to have his say in the situation, whether how he feels, working with the physio if they don't see anything wrong.
100%.
What's the manager's do?
100%. The manager's got to make his own decision. He's been in the game long enough, Arteta, as a player as well. He knows. Listen, when a player goes down and they start rolling, they're not injured. You know that. If a player goes down and he don't move at all, there's a problem. And the knee area is a very delicate place, isn't it? It's so important and delicate that you mustn't risk it at all. I mean, look how Jesus. I mean, the minute that happened, they whisked him away. They made sure they didn't rush him back. They're doing all this. He's missing. He might have missed a couple of games that he perhaps could have played in. But why take the risk? And they were correct to do it that way. So therefore, you're talking about 45 minutes. And you don't know. Arteta might have thought to himself before the game, after 60 minutes, I'm bringing him off anyway. Yeah. Right? With what we've got on the bench. So for me, it's just like you want to hit your head against a brick wall and think, why? This is why you're paid a lot of money. One of the reasons is to make decisions that are it's an open goal for me to make a decision like that. It's not even a worry. You go, well, no, there's no choice. It's to risk reward. It's 1 stroke against 9. It's not a 50-50, not 5 against 5. It's 1 against 9. You just don't do it. What was going through their mind? Well, they just too busy peeling oranges for the players to worry about it at half time. You've got to remember these, what else were they thinking about? They were 2-0 up, as Jerome says. Things were going okay. We weren't doing brilliantly, but they were okay. Do the same, lads. We're putting the same team out apart from the left back. Easy peasy. No. I think he overthought it again. I don't know.
Steve, an avoidable injury first and foremost, very sad for Julian Timber on his debut. I think every Arsenal fan was impressed with him, probably talking up as one of the signings of the summer for Arsenal.
Yeah.
And his season's pretty much over after 45 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, what can you say? I mean, it's terrible. Is it an ACL? I know he's having further tests.
Yeah, it looks like
an
ACL.
Have they actually diagnosed it as an ACL?
Not 100%. I don't think. I'm just checking now.
No, yeah, I know it's bad, but whatever. I know he's out for months. Whatever. Look, there's no doubt about he's going to be a massive loss. And as I say, all we can do is wish him well. Regarding the situation of how it should have been dealt with, obviously the boys are right. You know, there's no way he should have came out for the second half. I'm disagreeing with him a little bit. It's probably, you're not surprised. I don't think it's anything to do with Arteta. I don't know how it's Arteta's. It's not Arteta's decision. I don't feel it's nothing to do with him. He would have gone to his medical staff and the doctors, and they would have checked him. And that's what they're there for. And then they check him, and then they go to Arteta, and he says, "Where are they?" Arteta's not a doctor. And then they go to him and say, "No, he's fine. We've spoken to the player. We've checked his knee. He's fine." And then Arteta would go, "Yeah, okay, off you go then." You know, that's why he pays them money. So it's not Arteta's decision, I don't think. Anyway, I don't know how they deal with things there, but to me, you know, if I'm a football manager and I'm in the dressing room, I'm not making the decision. It's not up to me. I've employed doctors and medical staff to make that decision for me. So, yeah, I don't agree it was anything to do with Arteta. I don't know if that's his fault, but the medical staff, I totally agree. I mean, they absolutely have made a total right mess up, and yeah, I think they should be looking at their P45 because I think it was an absolutely disastrous decision. On the question, you know, will they bring someone in? They are looking for someone else. They are looking at bringing someone else in. And it's probably a bit of a combination of a couple of things, which one of them we'll probably get to later. But yeah, from what I'm hearing, they're looking at a few players to come in, because if he's out for 6, 8 months, they brought him in to do a particular job. So yeah. Now, there's no use going back. Tierney, it looks like, you know, if the right bid comes in, he would leave. So, yeah, they are looking at bringing someone in, and I think they will.
All right. On Tierney, Jerome, was you surprised that he didn't come on there, especially considering? Was you surprised that he didn't come on after the injury?
I don't think Tierney.
Was he not even in the squad?
He was in the squad.
This
is what I said last week. He's so far down the pecking order at left back, like he wasn't even in the squad. So,
and they come back to bite Arteta in the arse, didn't it? In the end,
yeah,
a little bit.
Well, it did a big bit, because your left back, you didn't have a left back. You didn't have a recognised left back on the squad then, did you? So, yeah. Do you think he's doing a bit too much tinkering there, Jerome?
I didn't mind the tinkering. My whole thing was this injury's overshadowed everything really, because it's a big. It was a massive signing for us. He's probably the player that's one of the top 2 or 3 they've impressed the most during pre-season, and now he's probably out for the season. So it's. Yeah, like I said, it's just overshadowed the whole game, and this is one thing that we didn't need. Like we've been building a very good squad here, and now this might have to make them make an extra move that they didn't want to do. We've obviously had to buy this or like loan this goalkeeper initially, so that we're not spending sort of money in this window. So whether they're going to have to sell someone else now to buy. I don't know, but it was just so unnecessary.
Melvin, obviously during Timber's out for a little while, Arteta's right toe. Do you think Timber will be the same player when he returns, or another Bellerin? That's a good question.
No, you can't tell. Who knows? I mean, Bellerin just relied on pace. He was a good footballer, but pace was 99% of the way he got past the player was move his body a little bit, but it was pace. This Timber looks so strong. It's such a shame he's got injured. It's horrible. And he's built, and he wasn't out of second gear on Saturday. I don't know. I'm no doctor, but he probably will be all right. I've had players that have come back after very, very bad injuries, and hopefully the things are getting better doctor-wise, and the way they do things now. What machinery they use. Yeah, I don't think they're young. Was he 22, 23? They got lots of time. Don't have to hurry him back, because let's face it, none of us thought before we saw him kick a ball that he's going to be in the first 11 anyway. I mean, after we've seen him play, we realise this kid's good enough. But if Shevchenko was going to play left back, and he's very, very in Arteta's thoughts, isn't he? Let's face it. Was he going to displace White at right back? I would have done it, but I don't think the manager probably would have done it. And then again, we did it again. I know he played left back and he played well at left back. He's not a left footer. Why do we do that sometimes? Had he played at right back, things might have been so different. It just drives you mad. It's so sad.
I don't think the option for right back was there because he's got Gabriel on the pitch. So if you're going to play right back, you play Ben White right back. I think the whole point of
Gabriel wasn't there on Saturday.
No, would it be something to do with the fact that because he is like Melvin's right, he does play with his right foot, but because he wants him to be an inverted right back, he comes in onto his right foot, doesn't he?
Yeah, but I think the initial playing party at right back was purely because
left back.
Nottingham Forest are not a possession-based team, so it was to have that extra midfielder in there, and also with Timber being able to do it as well, it was essentially, we had Rice could play a bit higher, Timber could be a bit more of a free role. I just don't think we were smart with the possession that we played, and we weren't clinical. We weren't ruthless. And if we're going to play that, if we're going to have a team where we're having an extra player that's moved from right back into midfield, we've got 2 extra players in midfield, then use it. Otherwise, all we're doing was what we did do for 20 minutes is pass the ball around in midfield. And you could just feel it there that if they have an opportunity on goal or have something that might spark their team into life, then we could be on the back foot here. We don't need to be, and it happened in the end. That's the frustrating thing. Sheepo, I think you're right. He said, I think that Timber will be fine. His game's not based on pace; it's rather technique and football intelligence. And I think that's right. And I think also with Bellerin's, he had complications with his surgery, so it wasn't just a case of he had an injury. His surgery didn't go well, and he got an infection in his knee, which then he had to have further surgery. So his was just a big mess, and I think that's why Bellerin sort of suffered more than you would on a normal injury like that. Any other standout performances in the game that you thought, Steve?
Standout. I thought Declan Rice was probably standout. Sleeper was, as brilliant as always. But I thought Everts did well. And it wasn't that he got any assists or he got, or he really did get any chances. But I thought his movement off the ball. You could see why Arteta bought him. You can see by a country mile, why he's bought him. His touch and his strength and his intelligence. You can see on a football pitch. He sees passes before anybody else does, and to have that extra player, further up the pitch, if you like, is great. But I think it's a little bit work in progress. That's why it wasn't a great performance all round, I think, because that's the way Arteta wants to go. He wants to play with the one DM with the inverted fullbacks. He doesn't want to You know, you look at Man City, they've got Rodri. They ain't got Rodri and Phillips or Rodri and another. Do you know what I mean? You know, Arsenal, you know, when you've got a side as the quality of what Arsenal are, you know, you don't go over there and say, oh, we're scared of everybody, we're going to play 2 DMs. We're coming at you wherever you are. So that's the way he wants to go. And that's the way forward. I think that we'll eventually see Arsenal play. But I liked Eddie Nketiah's. I know a lot of people didn't. I know he's got a lot of stick. I thought he started slow, but I really did think he had, you know, a very good game. And he's got his goal. He's a workhorse, isn't he? I love a player like that. You know, I do love a player who and he bleeds Arsenal. You can tell. You know, you can tell before a game. You can tell after the game. You can tell during training. You can tell when he's on the pitch, even if he's having a bad game. You know, he's running his arse off for Arsenal Football Club, and he scores goals. And I do have this thing where I keep going from one way or from another. Is he the man? Ain't he the man? But I keep coming back to the fact that I think he should be there, and we shouldn't sell him. And he's needed at Arsenal. So he stood out for me as well. So and the others, you know, Saka was good, and all the others were good. I thought Ben White, they had a good game. I don't think any of them had a bad game. I thought they all played well. I don't think anybody had a bad game. I don't think you can pick out a player and say he was bad or he had an off day. It was just that I think we're trying a new system. Yeah, we haven't tried it before, and you know it's just, you know, we're just waiting for it to tick. You know, and eventually it will tick, and eventually we'll just, you know, in the end we'll get used to playing that way. And we'll start destroying teams 4 or 5-0, I'm sure.
Jerome, why do you think Havertz's performance split the fan base so much? Because you had one side that was saying he had a pretty good game first half. He looked well. I think it was nine aerial duels he won in the game across the park. Offensively, wasn't really in and about it, but defensively or as a central midfielder, he put in a half decent shift. And some were saying he was lazy, didn't do anything, wasted 65 mil. Why do you think it's so black and white?
I think he's quite a difficult player to analyse. Firstly, down to his style was quite lethargic, so that doesn't help. But also with him, he hasn't in this game and just overall, so far he hasn't nailed down a position. Like if a player's playing as the left winger, you can sort of judge what they're doing. Are they beating their man? Are they getting in the box? Are they helping with the build-up? Like you can tell if a left winger's having a good game or not. With Havertz, because he floats around the pitch a bit, he hasn't got a specific position at the moment. It's hard to judge him. Like if he's like, what's he meant to be doing? Is he meant to pick, you know, have his back to goal and lay off the ball? Like you can judge that. With him, it's difficult to analyse. Yeah, that's why I think he splits opinion at the moment. Some people might give him a 4 out of 10 for the game. Some people might give him a 9 out of 10. And I think you're going to get that from him until he nails down a specific role in the team.
That's fair.
That's just my view on it.
No, I think that's fair. Melvin, why do you think Havertz has split so many opinions?
I think some people still got him as a Chelsea player. They can't see what colour shirt he's wearing. I think that definitely. And all you can remember of seeing him play, and I'm the same, missing goals for Chelsea, just going past the post, mishitting the ball. So I think that's number one. The bullish thing about him, though, which I like when I saw it, which is very good. I think he's got a very, very good football brain. He sees everything around him. Some of his one touch was very, very good. It didn't always come off because you could see what he was trying to do. And for a couple of balls are just that much away from being an absolutely diamond pass to put someone through. Yeah. So, I mean, and also it's one game. I know we've seen him last season and the season before at Chelsea, but did we see him? We watched Match of the Day. That's all we saw him. So we don't really know what he's like. I mean, I've seen players, and you've seen players, Kieran, play with the Arsenal. you know they're good players, but the first 7-8 games, people
Yeah.
are getting on their back because they ain't done it. I mean, look at the greatest players we've had, Bergkamp and Henry, didn't have the greatest of starts. The press, I think, and Stuart Pearce, wasn't it Pearce of Notts Forest left back? Was it Stuart Pearce?
Yeah, Stuart
Yeah,
Pearce.
it was. Yeah.
Slaughtered him. He slaughtered Bergkamp, right?
Yeah.
Another judge should be at the Old Bailey for saying that. It's ridiculous. He got it so wrong, right?
Yeah.
It's like one of the greatest promoters years ago saying, I don't think these Beatles are done so much. And he's still got his job, it's a bit like that. So, no, listen, we'd all seen, a lot of us have seen Bergkamp play.
Yeah.
We know what he could do. So I wasn't worried at the time, even when he was not doing much the first 7 games. Henry didn't know much about him, but you could see he had something about him. No way think he was going to be the player that he became. Also, when we bought Pires, another not very good player, when we first had him, the guy I used to sit with, he was complaining because he wasn't as fast as
Overmars. Oh, come on.
Because and I said, we ain't the same place. What do you mean? He's a totally different, because I'd seen Pires play.
Yeah.
On TV a few times. I knew for France as well. And I saw this guy just glides. Again, I didn't realise he was going to be as good as he was, but I knew he was a good player.
Yeah.
And so this guy, it could be another thing. You've got to give him. I know it's the same league, so he should be the same. No, he's playing a totally different system.
Nah.
If Mikel gives him a job to do, so his head's not everywhere. Look, focus. That is your job. That is what you've got to do. I believe that he could really be a force and someone that could really add to the squad and, more importantly, add to the team. Because when we break, I've got to mention him. Martinelli's first half performance was stupid. It was ridiculous. I was shaking my head. Attack-wise, he was phenomenal. And when the right back, the ex-Spurs got the ball, running away, he just gave him 20 yards, caught him up, and took the ball off him. Didn't foul him. And it was like, oh my, this is ridiculous. He couldn't keep up for both halves, but he was amazing. Amazing. I can see in away games with Havertz getting the ball and doing this one pass, and we're away. Like Odegaard can do.
I think that's what Martinelli needs, because where we play a lot of inverted fullbacks, he doesn't get as much of the ball as he should do. When Gabriel Jesus plays, he gets more of the ball. When Gabriel Jesus isn't there and Nketiah's there, he doesn't get as much of the ball. So he has to create a lot with himself. It's always a one-on-one, and he's got to take it past the man. I think he needs that little through ball so he can just run onto it and finish it. That's where he got a lot of his goals over the last few seasons. So I think once Havertz starts getting into the swing of things, once he starts knowing where players are going to be, I think he starts shining. Steve, do you think if it was Granit Xhaka playing the other day instead of Havertz and he put in the same performance, there'd be as much as a split? Or do you think that people would say, they're all right game?
Yeah, I mean, the way that it turned out, probably Granit Xhaka of 3 years ago, everybody probably be absolutely ripping him apart if he had a game like that. What's he done? All he's done is hold it up, pass it off, and he ain't done. Havertz does it. It's like, he's had a decent game, isn't he? He's done all right. So it's amazing how split they are. But you have had that. I've seen people say, over the weekend and that, he's good. He's all right, but he ain't Xhaka, is he? Yeah, as good as Xhaka, is he? And I'm laughing my head off. Do you know what I mean? And I'm like, how people can change their mind, and this ain't just like the odd one or two. He's not Xhaka. Cool, he's not Granit Xhaka. Don't we miss Granit Xhaka in there? If Granit Xhaka was in there and instead of Havertz, but they're different players. They're two totally different players, and you're exactly right. If it was Xhaka, he would have got a totally different type of sort of reaction. But he seems he's got to be that player who's going to be like Marmite. Some will love him and some will hate him. But to those people, all what I say is just watch what he does. Just don't if he doesn't do an assist, if he doesn't score a goal, look what he does. look at the way. See, some of the runs he did. See, I don't know if anybody else knows. Some of the runs that he was doing to take defenders away from from Martinelli and Saka and Nketiah. When Jesus is there, he's got such a good brain. It's another thing that he can do that Xhaka can't do. They can do different things. Look, he's not Granit Xhaka. He hasn't got the fight. He hasn't got that. That sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? He hasn't got the
bite.
He hasn't got the bite. Yeah, he hasn't got the bite of what Granit Xhaka was, and Mikel Arteta knows that, and that's why he wants to play the inverted fullbacks. That's why he wants to get that cover in the midfield to counteract for Xhaka. But he knows what he wants from Havertz, because Havertz got a vast, much more of a football brain than what Granit Xhaka has, and he wants to use that. So, hopefully they'll turn around. But to say all I can say is, people just watch him. Be like, just watch him. When Arsenal play next, have like Havertz can, and just watch where he moves, watch what he does.
Yeah, give him time as well.
Yeah,
give him time. Another bit of news that came out, well, pretty much as soon as he didn't start. Gabriel Magalhaes linked to Saudi Arabia. News that Saudi clubs are looking at Gabriel, but it was funny how it was worded after that. Very much so. Jerome, was there any worry for you that Gabriel may leave and up sticks to Saudi?
With the money they're throwing around, anything's possible. I think you see what Neymar's just signed for about $150 million every season. He's going to get for the next couple of seasons. So, yeah, the money they're throwing, it could happen, but I'd hate to. I can't see how we can get rid of him. He's way too important for us to get rid of, unless there's something silly like a humongous fee like you've never seen before for a centre back. Otherwise, it's an absolute no-go. I wouldn't entertain it at all. He's, like I said before, he started 70 odd games for us in a row, apart from up until the weekend. He's got to stay. Way too important to let go.
Melvin, do you echo what Jerome says? Gabriel's way too important for Arsenal. I mean, he started 70 games. He's pretty much played every game last season, even in some of the cup games he was playing against some of the lower opposition. Think he's too important for Arsenal's team?
Definitely. I mean, I know you just said he's got a mistake in him. He has got a mistake in him. And hopefully, given time, that will disintegrate. But he's got such a great understanding with Saliba. I mean, only great teams, you only be a great team, you've got a great centre-half pairing. No weak centre-half pairing does anything. It can't happen. And we've got a great centre-half pairing. If someone came in and offered us part of the country, then obviously Arsenal got to think about it. But I don't, it's just, that's life. I mean, it's got to a point now, Kieran, where for certain clubs, and we're not in this, but money doesn't mean anything. It's like playing Monopoly, and by your side, you're the only person in the game that's printing more money. Just keep putting more £500 notes on in the Monopoly game. It doesn't mean anything. It's like it's unbelievable, and they don't worry about value. It's, do you want him? Yeah, we get him. Not, well, is he really worth that? I don't think the Chelseas, for example, or the Saudi Arabian teams actually think about value. They don't have to, and that's the problem we've got. I don't want to see him go. Of course, I don't. But if it means that we buy another stadium, then we think about it.
Steve, Sonny Donnelly says, I can't see Gabriel leaving, in all honesty, definitely now with Timber's injury. Do you see him leaving? Was there any worry in the back of your mind that potentially he could leave? Or was it just an overreaction to the fact that he didn't start a game?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the reason why. Well, actually, I've got a theory why he didn't start him. But no, I mean, I never had any worries that he was gonna leave. You know, he's an important part, and like you said, he played 70 games for Arsenal last season, and you know, again, he was one of our best performers. Yes, we've all said he's got a mistake in him, but who ain't? You know, everybody's got a mistake in him. You know, even Saliba, not a lot, but every now and then he has. But I've never, I didn't have any thoughts, you know, in my head when I see the Saudi thing, or the fact that he was put on the bench, that you know he was going to leave, because I feel that I know what Arteta's doing. I know what he's doing. I think he's saying this to every player. He's saying, look, there's not one of you in this team, right, that is going to start every game of the week. None of none of you are going to come in here and don't think you're going to start. You know, this is a squad game here. You know, and I think you're going to see, you know, and Gabriel sitting on the bench was just, you know, with him sitting on the bench, I think you'll see Partey on the bench. You'll see Odegaard sitting on the bench. You know, even Saka maybe if someone comes. I think this is the way Arteta thinks. You know, I think he feels that no one's place is, you know, guaranteed. You've all got to fight each other for your place, and that's why he seems to be buying so many defenders, doesn't he? You know, we seem to have a load of them. You know, and even though we're getting the rumours of Kieran Tierney, you know, going, I'm still hearing that we're still looking for another centre half or another defender. So I'm not worried. I just feel it was his turn to sit on the bench, give him a little rest. But you know, the theory. I mean, there is another theory. There's the theory of the three at the back. You know, when Gabriel plays, is he the best to play when we play that three at the back system? Is there something in Arteta's head that says, when I want to play three in the back, I want to play a Timber on the left side? You know, on the right side, obviously, I feel that Ben White's better because he's obviously plays with his right foot and he can play on the right. And in the middle, you've got Saliba, who's just probably someone who would play every week. So if you're thinking of a Timber, a Zinchenko at three at the back, and you're looking at Ben White being the other one with the inverted fullback and Saliba in the middle, I think you know, does he look at it and think, well, maybe Gabriel, I don't really fancy you when we have three at the back. You're not my guy, because
it's not
it doesn't. It's not fluid, is it? Because
no, it's not.
So there's another fault, you know, that Arteta might be thinking about.
Yeah, it's not as fluid. I know I'm not against the changes. I'm not against the rotation. It's keeping teams on their toes. One problem we had last season was what became very predictable. Zinchenko inverted left back, Ben White right back, and when we had to starting back for it was Gabriel and Saliba. However, it did work. It was working. But towards the end of the season, I think we needed options to change it. We needed to switch it around. We needed to rotate the squad. One thing that Man City have been able to do over the last however long is rotate their teams. I think De Bruyne played 30-odd games last season. The majority of the back four at Man City only played 22 games in the Premier League. And then in the Champions League, they all played 11 games. They played in every single important game, because that was deemed the important game where you need to have your exact starting 11. Whereas in the Premier League, you can slightly rotate players here and there. And I think if Arsenal can do that, it will benefit them towards the end of the season. We're not going to be looking around and relying on certain players. We're not going to be... If Saliba drops out this season, yes, it will be a miss. But you can put Ben White there. There's another option. It's not a Rob Holding. And with a Rob Holding, you don't have that mobility. You don't have someone that could break out defence. You don't have someone that expansive passing. So we're putting all these things into place. It is a massive shame that we lost Timber for the first game of the season. Gabriel has to stay. I see him as a leader.
Does he start though, Keys? Does he? Because Arsenal are looking. The only time they're not going to play three at the back is when they play four at the back against the top teams, aren't they? You know, other than that, if they're playing against like lesser teams, which is most of the league, you know, inferior to us, we'll play three at the back. So is Gabriel? I mean, Melv, Jerome. Just interested in what you think. Is he your man to come in at that 3 at the back, or is he on the bench?
I don't think it's the case that we play 3 at the back. I don't think it's the case that we play 3 at the back. I think you play 4 at the back.
You play 4 at the back, correct, Kieran? And also
against the better teams, not against the lesser teams. No.
How many years have we watched the Arsenal? The 10, 15 years, and had absolute jokes at centre back. Not only we didn't have a great pairing, either one of the centre backs wasn't any good. Now, for the first time in a long, long time, we've got 2 fantastic, one better than the other, I'll give you, fantastic centre halves, but they both work together.
But he's not. But he's not going to play for. It seems. It says to me. I might be wrong, but to me, it don't come across. And this is the only reason why I'm saying what I'm saying, because I totally agree with what you said, Melv. But if he's playing at,
you went.
Well,
you should have done that, Kieran. That was unfair.
I was going to say, he's kept on talking about 3 at the back. I weren't having it. Jerome, your turn.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, if he's playing 3 at the back, which it seems he's going to do for most of the season, unless you're playing your Man United, your Newcastle, your Man Cities, then you go to 4, right? Because them teams could overrun you on a bad day, right? Because they've got better players. But for the rest of the time, you must be thinking about playing 3 at the back, surely, because of the players that he's bought, because of Timber, because of Zinchenko, because of Ben White. And it doesn't seem to. If you're playing 4 at the back every game, right, then 100%. It's Saliba, it's Gabriel. They're the 2 best centre half partnerships in the Premier League for me, all day long. But he's not going 4 at the back. It looks to me like he's going 3. And if you're playing 3, Gabriel don't start.
I don't think the 3 at the back is determined whether you're playing a lesser team or someone in the top 6. I think the 3 at the back is more determined whether you're playing a team that allows you to have possession. And if they're going to allow you to have possession, he's opting for that extra person in midfield, personally. Yeah, I don't see a team, a successful Arsenal, that doesn't have a consistent defence, a consistent spine. And that consistent spine should be built around the 2 best centre-backs in the team. And that's Gabriel and Saliba. Especially if you're talking about left centre-back and your right centre-back, that's Gabriel and Saliba. Ben White can come in and play in the Saliba position. Yes, he can rotate the Saliba position. Yes, I don't think there's too much of a fault. If it's slightly different type of player, but I don't think there's too much of a drop-off. But the left centre-back, Kidior is not Gabriel. There's no one in this team who's as aggressive as Gabriel. He's just a different style of player. And I think, personally, you need that in the team. Jerome, what's your thoughts on the back 3 and Gabriel?
Well, in all Arteta's time, this is the first time he hasn't played with like a proper, really centre-back partnership, isn't it? Normally it's Gabriel and Saliba every week. Mm-hmm. And this is the first time we haven't seen it. Or Holding will come in, or Kiwior will come in if one of them's injured. So this is the first time we've seen it, and I think that maybe because he felt that we were going to have so much of the ball, for the first time he thought let's give it a go. I don't know. It's a bit risky for me, because I think you could get caught out. But
City play 3 at the back, don't they?
But City playing 3 at the back because they want to go.
They want to go and destroy it because they think they're better than everyone else.
Well, I think they also they played very much the same system as what we're playing now. So I think they're changing it up to counteract what everyone else seems to be doing, which is the 4 at the back and the 2 and one inverted, and it drops into the 3. So I think Man City trying to do something a little bit different, and that's why they brought in Vardiol. They've still got Laporte. They've still got Ake. They've still got Akanji. They've got an abundance of centre-backs because they will play with 4 centre-backs. Yeah, I think it's one of them we're going to have to see over the games. I just think it's more of a case of if we've got a team that's going to allow us to have possession then we see it free at the back, and you might see a Kiri, or you might see a Ben White, or whoever that left centre or a centre back in the free. But
Yeah.
I don't specifically think it's anything for any of the lesser teams other than the top 6 teams. That's my personal opinion. Let's quickly go to the comments before we go tonight. Sheepo says, did you guys hear what Arteta says about Nketiah after the game? I really liked it. I think you were talking about the bit where Arteta made quite a point. I think
I remember now.
Which maybe a message to some of the other players in the team. Whereas Eddie Nketiah went up to Mikel Arteta in training and said to him, "If you don't pick me, you're blind." And his response to that was, some players,
I love that.
Some players in the team will ask me why I'm not being picked, and some players will tell me why I should be picked. And Eddie did that, and this is the result. And he said he loves it. So, Steve, what were your thoughts on that? On those comments from Mikel Arteta?
Oh yeah, I can't remember the comments word for word, but yeah, as I said, I've already said everything that I wanted to say about Eddie. I just think he's pure Arsenal. He's pure red and white. He's obviously not got the quality of some centre forwards, but I think someone to come in who you want to score a goal, he does. The only problem with Eddie is that when he comes off the bench, he's very rarely he scores. But when he starts, and that may be a problem. That may be a problem. But he's still, pretty young. Maybe that will come now. Who knows? But yeah, again, Arteta loves it. I love it. That's the type of attitude I like. That's what I want from my players. That's what I want to hear. That's why I don't like quiet players. For me, sometimes Thomas Quiet is a little bit too quiet. Tierney is a little bit too quiet. I want to see him more like, upbeat, more sort of wanting to up for the fight. I mean, they probably are. Well, they show it on the pitch, but I do love it off the pitch as well. Showing them how much they love the club. I know people, have got their things with Eddie, and he has got his faults, but yeah, I think Arteta knows his worth. I know his worth as well, but I think we both know his faults at the same time. But I love Eddie.
We're all a bit critical of Eddie, and when he loves to prove us wrong, he loves to shut us up, and when he does, I think we all give him a standing ovation, because I think we are quite critical of him. But it's because we want the best for our club. And sometimes you see his shortcomings and you're quite frustrated with it. But you can't knock his application. You can't knock his patience and persistence. You look at a Balogun who's had one season in France, decent season in France, and he's telling you that he wants to be a starter, and he's not willing to wait. Whereas Eddie, he's been here since Arsene Wenger was here, who gave him his debut, scored to keep us in the Carabao Cup against Norwich. Scored twice in that game as well. And he's still here now, knocking on the door, saying he's not going to put up with being second best backup, but in a different way. He said it in a different way. It wasn't. What he's saying is a message to say, you've got a hungry player on the bench. I'm not here to be backup. I'm here to start. And it's a different way of saying, I want to be first team, as to what you're getting from Balogun.
Yeah. And he backs it up, Kears. That's what I like. He backs it up. He knows what he can do. He knows that from what he says, and when he says these things to Arteta, he knows that what he's capable of. And he probably feels that when I go and he probably thinks right now he probably feels that I could be Arsenal's number one striker.
Well, he's probably in training and watching Gabriel Jesus' finishing. He's probably looking at Gabriel Jesus' game and thinking, excellent. But he's probably looking at Gabriel Jesus' finishing and thinking, I'm a better finisher than you. If I get in front of goal, I fancy myself more than you. And what Eddie is doing is he's working on the other side of his game. Jerome, this is exactly what Mikel Arteta said. He said, Eddie sums up what we want in this season in terms of the squad. He was a player who was really disappointed not to start the Manchester City game in the absence of Gabriel Jesus, but he had an incredible impact in the game against City, and he trained like a beast. A lot of players will ask, why am I not playing? And the thing is that Eddie is telling you, look at all the reasons I'm giving you to play me. When you play him, after you know you're going to have that response, because he's not looking for excuses or anything. He's looking at his own performances and what he can do for the team. It's an example for everyone to look at. Getting a bit of credit there from the manager, which will probably hype him up for the next game.
Yeah, I think, you know, as a manager, you've got to do that to give your players a bit of confidence. I think with Eddie, I think he's the type of player that he has to like put a lot of effort in, especially in training, because he can't just go casually go through a game showing off his ability, because he's not that sort of player. Mm-hmm. Like a sort of a Roy Keane, Roy Keane couldn't stroll through the game because he wasn't maybe as technically fantastic as some of the other players. He had his work rate had to be like top draw to be impactful, and I think that's the same with Eddie. I think like he's got to train hard because technically he's perhaps not as strong as some of the other players in his position, and that's the area where it's like anyone really. Everyone has got the capability to work hard. It's just the other side of the game that people don't have. So yeah, you can't knock him for that. And we know that Arteta's always been a fan of him.
Yeah.
Same like with Nelson. Like I don't know, maybe because he's come through the academy, perhaps.
Yeah.
He's obviously got something towards Eddie. Look, ultimately it's good because it shows other players that if you do put the effort in, I'll pick you. And I guess we want to think that everyone's a level playing field and everyone's got equal chance to play. So in that aspect, it's pretty good. I was still a bit surprised that he started, but he scored. So he could have sat on the grass and picked his nose for 89 minutes, but he scored a goal. So that's what matters.
But he's right though. I agree with Jerome. I was surprised that he started.
Yeah.
But why are we surprised? Why are we surprised? The geezer just keeps scoring. So we shouldn't be surprised because, as like I said, I just read you out his stats at the Emirates. Why should we be surprised? He scores goals.
I think with Eddie, just one more thing with Eddie is I don't think he has, from a forward player, I don't think he has in. I think the crowd and fans want moments where you go, "Oh, well done." Like that was good. And like you chalk it off saying, yeah, that was something good that he did. You get that with Saka, you get it with Martinelli. With Eddie, you don't really get those moments. You'll get that from obviously a goal. And maybe he might put a player under pressure. But in terms of something positive, exciting going forward, he doesn't give you enough things to get excited about, I don't think.
I think I know what you mean. Do you think we can see more from Eddie's game, Melvin, or do you think he's just going to end up being better at what we've already seen?
I fear we've seen his ceiling. I really do. I think some of the things he does is very good. Obviously, scoring goals is very good, but I fear that when he does something good, it's more like didn't expect that, rather than like Jesus does great things all the time. You can't compare the two players, but I'm just making this analogy. Jesus does things, oh, that's good. But when Eddie would do something like that, I'm not sure he could, you go, well, hold on a minute. Didn't expect that. You don't expect him to do. If you're sitting there and you know what he's going to do. You feel like you know what he's going to do. He'll beat a player because he'll go one way and then the other, and his speed of taking past someone. But you know that's what he's going to do. You don't do anything. Oh, God, I didn't expect that. I didn't expect him to play that ball. He's basically like watching a chess game with him, a very fast chess game, the way he plays. You know he's only got a certain amount of moves. That's all he can do. But I'm not knocking him. He gives 100%. And he might, but going back to what Steve just said, yeah, Arteta likes him, so he's going to get plenty of game time. He scores goals. He's got to get game time. He gives 100%. He's got to get game time. But for me, I don't care what he says to the manager. I'm only interested on a match day, what he does on the pitch.
And so far, he's doing it.
Yeah,
He
he's
is,
he's a finisher, isn't he? I mean, it's like
It was a good finish. I mean, Martinelli's
Did you
bit of
see the
skill
little?
was ridiculous, but he
But
still
no
had
one
to
me-
get the ball out of his feet, drop his shoulder, and then finish it off.
No one.
Oh, we took
mentioned-
that goal well. We took that first goal very well.
No
Eddie. I'll
one.
give
No
you
one
that.
mentioned that bit of skill, did they? I mean, none of us have tonight, have we? But right.
That bit of skill was
I'm glad
unbelievable.
you brought it up, but that little shimmy, to make the space to get it onto
Yeah.
his right foot and then bury it
Yeah,
was quality. Was
Yeah.
absolute class. But
yeah,
we'll all be guilty of saying, "Good strike from Eddie. What a goal!" But what about the build-up to lead into that goal? What about the move, the way he just turned that defender inside out and put it on his right foot, and just the defender didn't know where he was, and then smashed it in.
yeah.
He's a finisher. He's a goal scorer. He's not like what Melvin said. He's not an assist maker. He's not going to make goals, But you give that ball to him in the box.
Yeah,
He's got an 80% chance if he gets it on his right foot, he's burying it in the back of the net, and that's what he is. And we've got to come to accept that is what Eddie is, and that's what he's in the team to do.
and it could be
is score
valuable
goals.
for us. Look, you're in a cup. You're in a cup game, and look, we've said he's coming off the bench. He's not as good. He's not as sharp.
No, it's
But
not.
you know, in those games when you need a goal, you bring on Eddie, put it in the box. You might just win you the game. So, yeah. Let's quickly go through the comment section before we go. Sheepo says Havertz's movement was fantastic. After a few games, he will be fantastic for us. Johnny says Havertz will be accepted once he scores past Spurs. I think everyone's accepted once they score past Spurs. If Arteta improves Havertz like he did Xhaka, then we're in for a treat. No, I completely agree. Unless we get 100 million to never sell Gabriel, we need the partnership with Saliba. Do we need a clinical striker? I'll ask Melvin that. Do we need a clinical striker, Melvin?
100%.
All right. Jerome, quickly, do we need a clinical striker?
Wouldn't say no to one.
That is so on the fence. That is so on the fence. Steve, do we need a clinical striker?
It's like Jerome said. I wouldn't say no to one, but I don't think it's top of Arteta's list to get a striker. Why? We scored 6 goals less than Man City last year with our main striker out for 3 months. So people have got to realise we get goals from everywhere. So it was our defence that was the problem, and then Arteta's noted that, and obviously that's why he keeps buying a load of defence. That's why we've got a load of defenders.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, one couple of things I just want to say before I go is I want to give Mohamed and El Neni a big, can see why he's been at the club, because he's been fantastic with during Timber. As soon as he got injured, he was on the pitch with him. He was taking him down the tunnel. You can see why he's been given that year contract. Mohamed.
Yeah, I think he's going to become a
So
coach, part of the coaching staff, isn't he?
That's correct. He's going to become a coach, yes.
Yeah. And I'd like to say well done to Mason Mount last night for being absolute crap. So for did you see his stats?
No.
Well done, Mercenary Mount.
All right. Johnny says, still not having Eddie, not for me. Russ says, Eddie is good around the box, but Arteta wants his forwards to contribute more. His goal at the weekend was lucky. Don't get me wrong. I'll take a lucky goals, but he's not clinical enough. Johnny, that is a terrible take. Come on, man. There is zero. Where was the luck? Tell me where the luck was, Johnny. Go on.
Turned the geezer inside
tell me where the
out.
luck was.
He turned the geezer inside out.
He did do that. I think he slightly mishit it, but I think it hit someone's foot over the
Yeah, do you know who else mishit it? Rooney's Pele overhead kick.
Yeah, he did. He hit his shin.
Where he hit his shin. You can slightly mishit a goal. If you never heard the strike, if you never heard the pundits turn around and say he hit it too clean, he hit it too sweet. Sometimes it's not always about hitting.
But I do agree with Johnny more so on that. I don't think he's a clinical striker. People forget the decent chance he missed with his head not long before that. Centre forward should be
Do you know
scoring
what?
that.
14
I can
16
agree.
games,
He's
though.
not.
14
He's
in
not.
16.
He's not great in
That's
the
pretty
air.
clinical, isn't it?
He's not great in the air. He's definitely not great. I've seen him miss a lot of sitters in the air.
Do you remember the one on Saturday, Kieran?
Can't remember it, but I'm sure I'll be
He
reminded.
was basically under the bar.
Johnny, I think you should put that on Eddie's dressing room wall. We're going to send that to him.
I do not dislike the kid, but
wall.
there's loads of chances he's done okay. Okay isn't enough.
Well, if he wouldn't have scored the other day, we wouldn't have won the game. So
If's a very big word, though, Steve, isn't it?
What's that?
If is a very big
buts
word.
and maybes. Johnny's not saying he must be number one choice, but I don't think his backup. He's as good as there is.
Well, if we can get someone in who can score the amount of goals he does and more than 14 goals in 16 games, then I'll take him instead of Eddie. Until then, I'll keep Eddie. Thank you very much.
Get out of it. Get out of it, Johnny. That's not luck. Come on. Frank Lampard hit a deflection every other goal. He's lucky. Get out of it, man. Come on.
Why don't people like Eddie? I don't get it. What is Johnny?
Johnny. Not every goal is a sweet hit. Not every goal doesn't take a nick. That's not luck. Come on, man. That's not luck. What about when you hit it firm and true and it goes straight to the goalkeeper? Yeah. And it don't go in. What a clinical striker is. Why is what are you saying? Want a clinical striker, so why Eddie? Eddie Love? Why Eddie Love? Is that what you're saying? Yeah. Because like, okay, you want a clinical striker, but so is Jesus going out the team? Because you don't have Jesus in the team and your clinical striker. Who's the clinical striker? Is not clinical. I agree. Okay, but then you're changing the game. So who's the clinical striker out that you deem clinical enough in the Premier League? For me, doesn't play for us. Yeah, talking about. There aren't many around, are there? There's not. No. There's not. The most clinical strikers are your Mbappe's, Haaland. See what people I think I understand as well. When you're playing with a clinical striker like your Kane or your Haaland or whoever else, right? What that does, that takes away the goals from the rest of the players on the pitch. So Martinelli wouldn't score the goals, the over 15 goals he would. Saka wouldn't score the over 15 he would. Odegaard wouldn't score the over 15 that he would, because the more chances and the more things, they'll all be going for this clinical striker. Different teams play in different ways. You know, Manchester City's goals were 70% scored by Erling Haaland last year. Grealish never scored. Mahrez never scored. Bernardo Silva picked up one or two there. Gundogan got a few. Arsenal are different. We play a different way. You play a clinical striker, you take all that away. And you can't. So pick one. You know, get rid of Jesus, bring in a top clinical striker, but lose what you have with the others. But I think that was the conversation last season. People were saying that Arsenal need to bring in a clinical striker, and it was Jesus that would have to make way. Johnny, no one compared Pele to Eddie. I don't know what you're hearing there. I was talking about Wayne Rooney's overhead kick. He didn't hit it sweet, did he? He hit it with his shin, but it was still a nice goal. All right, that's all we have time for. Thank you for everyone who's joined us tonight. The comment section was absolutely popping. Love that. Some new faces in there as well. Make sure you're all pressing that subscribe button if you are new to the show. I want to see at least 15 or 20 likes in there at the end of the show. And as well, press that share button. Press the little link, copy, and that's it. We'll get our top four in next week. Yeah, we will. We will. We'll get our top four predictions in next week. And of course, any questions that we've missed off as well. Thank you for joining us tonight, Steve, Jerome, and Melvin. Mate.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having us on.
All right. Peace out, people. Stay safe and wash your hands.